Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and the topic of this 10-minute moan is a little bit different from my usual, as I contemplate, did we land in the moon? Now before you think I've put a tinfoil hat on and I'm howling at the moon, good term that, isn't it, considering the topic, but I just want you to understand something that I do. I do often have a look at conspiracy theories, and some conspiracy theories are indeed conspiracy truths. However, that doesn't mean that every conspiracy theory is a conspiracy truth. And I like to investigate them, and not just purely from one side to actually debunk or to prove a conspiracy theory is indeed right or wrong. And I can sometimes get caught in rabbit holes for days on end, sometimes weeks and months. Particularly the one with flat earth or globe earth, that was a particularly enjoyable rummage into ridiculousness. And what I like to do is look at both sides of any conspiracy. And often you can find enough evidence to suggest both are true. It just depends on what you accept as truth. With the internet, obviously the size of it these days, you could get enough evidence to prove any conspiracy theory is indeed a conspiracy truth. Or, if you're so inclined, to look at the exact same conspiracy and find loads of ways to debunk them, because that is the nature of the internet. So when we do have a conspiracy theory put in front of us, yeah, go and get 100 things to back it up either way, either true or false, and state your claim. But be very, very aware of what's out in the internet and what you take to believe as truth. So what I want to show you is quite an interesting video I stumbled on just this morning on X, where there's a man claiming that he's no longer for this earth, and he's passing on a claim of what his father told him about NASA and a government cover-up. And his father told him this in 2002, just before he passed away. And it's intriguing. And if it is indeed true, then it would back up the theory by the conspiracy theorists who claim we didn't land on the moon. But you can find, as I say, things to back it up on the other side. And I actually done this one. As I say, I always try and investigate both sides of conspiracy theory, and quite often you end up none further forward than you were before you started, because there's enough compelling evidence on both sides of any conspiracy theory. But this one about the did we or did we not land on the moon, you get the Van Halen belt theories, all these things suggest it being possible. But one that I stumbled on a couple of months ago was the fact that the moon landers put a prism on the moon, which we can fire laser beams at. It will hit the prism and be returned. We can measure how long it takes, and we can measure if the moon's moving slightly away or slightly towards us in any given day. And these scientists showed us this in action, and indeed fired a laser, hit the prism on the moon, and that laser beam came back to us. And as they said, this is proof that we landed on the moon. And then I thought, well, yeah, that's right, but then soon after thought, well, that's not right either, because what it does prove is, it proves there's a prism on the moon. That does not mean it was placed there at the hand of a human being. It could have been taken there by a spaceship from Earth to the moon, unmanned. I don't know. Might be right, might be wrong. But that's what I'm saying. So even when you find indisputable evidence, you can always have a look and consider if it's true or not true. So sit back, enjoy the video, and let's see what happens here.
I don't want any money for what I'm doing, because hopefully this video won't come out until after my death. So I have nothing to gain, nothing to profit by telling you what I'm going to tell you. In 1968, my father was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. We lived in Clovis, New Mexico. He was in the military police for over 20 years, and on his deathbed in 2002, we made a recording of what happened. Project Slam Dunk was the name of this. President Johnson in 1968, okay? In Cannon Air Force Base in 1968, he said by the time he got there, that there was already 2 large hangars that were connected. There was hundreds of dump trucks that came in and dumped sand and stone, and cement powder was powdered over the top of all that to make it look like a lunar landscape. They had men that fashioned it into a lunar landscape, he said. Okay, I've never known my dad to lie, so this all took me by surprise. You know, what's that all about? So anyway, he said that in front of the airplane hangars was pole framing with large canvas tents that was concealing the inside of the staging area. Inside the staging area, on flatbed trucks, was uncrated the lunar lander that was reassembled back inside the hangars. All of the walls were painted flat black, and the ceilings as well. He was sworn to secrecy by the NSA, and they would put him in prison for breaking that oath. When Dad saw the moon landing on TV, he cried. He said he knew that what he had witnessed on TV was exactly what they recorded in that hangar. There was no reason for them to go flying around and everything. They had detailed high-definition photos of the landing area. There was no reason for them to go flying around to a different landing area that almost exhausted their fuel, except for drama, because everything had gone so smoothly. Nothing, you know, so it had to be something. Anyway, Dad was one of 3 guards that guarded the inside of the front entrance. There was a list of 15 people who could enter. No one else was allowed by order of President Johnson. And here is that list, and I gave it to Bart Seibrow as well. He checked out a lot of these names, and he says he can verify a lot of these people and what they do. And I come across a couple myself. Anyway, President Johnson, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin, Werner von Braun, Robert Emenegger, Gene Kranz, James Webb, Joe Kerwin, Dr. Thomas Paine, Glenn Looney, Dr. Christopher Kraft, Dr. James Van Allen, General Trudeau, Lieutenant Colonel Donald Simon, and Grant Norrie. Now, the only 2 that I really have information on is Robert Emenegger. Apparently, he did a lot of video work and stuff for the Department of Defense. So the DoD did know him. Okay, and the other one was Grant Norrie, Norray, I believe. Was to the best of my dad's knowledge, was a like some FBI, CIA, NSA, who knows, something like that. Okay, President Johnson only showed up for the first day of filming. Filming lasted for 3 days, and the entire project was restored to original. In other words, the hangars were all taken apart, the sand was all removed. Dad said there was a lot of building going on at the base, so at the time, so sand and cement powder was never questioned. I can see how they could smuggle that all in within everything else that's going on. Since 2002, I have dug up, I already told you about that, the evidence for the moon landing that I have found. If you go to Google and go to Cannon Air Force Base website, they admit that President Johnson was there. The lunar lander was there. The astronauts were there. I also have verified some of the people on the list were there. I also verified there are a lot of building going on in the base, just as he had told me. And all of this was going on at the same time, on the same date. Dad told me all these things, father to son. He also told me not to ever tell anyone what he had said, but he said on his deathbed that he had to tell somebody before he died because it was just too important not to tell. That's about all I can think of. My dad, he raised me by the book. I know he didn't lie to me.
So there we go. What a fascinating video. Fascinating claims on it. And if this man is telling the truth, then it would prove that we didn't land on the moon, and it was in fact just a television production, which might mean that's why there was no stars in the sky and people feel you would see them if you were on the moon. I don't know. I've never been to the moon, so I don't know if there's stars visible from it or not. I would kind of think there would be, but that doesn't mean we didn't land on the moon. It also doesn't mean we did. But it's an intriguing story nonetheless, and I'm sure those who have got an interest in this sort of thing, if you haven't seen this video before, maybe a wee starter would be to go through the names of the people he claims were on his father's list of the small number of people that were allowed into that studio or hangar or whatever you want to call it. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notifications button. But most importantly of all, unless you are a conspiracy theorist that just makes things up, everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.